Hi, I'm Ryan Cummings from R&R Law Group. Welcome to Your Brother at Law. Here, we break Arizona law in simple, straightforward terms. Whether you need tips or insights on legal processes, I'm here to make the law easier to understand. Let's dive in and make legal knowledge more accessible for everyone.
Hi, I'm Ryan with the R&R Law Group. One of the questions we get asked sometimes is, are DUI laws too harsh in Arizona? And the long and short of it is, they are harsh. I wish there was some more leeway. I wish there was a diversion program for first-time offenders. I think that would be a lot more beneficial because I think a lot of people that get a DUI, it's a one and done type of thing. And I think that if you gave them the opportunity to have a diversion type of program so that it didn't go on their record, it would be a lot more beneficial to our average citizen. Now, there are certainly people that have had multiple DUIs, and penalties get harsher as you go up and as you get more DUIs. But I certainly wish there was something like that for first-time offenders, because I truly believe that most of the people that get DUIs, this is a one-time mistake. They realize what happened, and then they correct any necessary behaviors, and you never see them in the criminal justice system again. Now, that being said, talk about our mandatory laws. Like, that's the only other thing, right? Is that we have mandatory minimums for all of our DUIs. So for the impaired to the slightest degree, or the .08, 10 days jail, 9 days can get suspended. So you have a day in jail that you have to do. Now, fines and fees and interlock happen to all of the DUIs, and they're dependent upon kind of your levels. But 1 day jail is your minimum on that level. Now, if you're at a .15 to a .199, now you're going to be looking at 30 days in jail. Now, we've had some different laws that have changed and have kind of made things a little better than what it used to be. So now what happens is, of those 30 days, 21 days can get suspended if you agree to equip your vehicle with an ignition interlock device, which the motor vehicle department is going to make you do anyway. So it's kind of a no-brainer. And then what happens then is, of those 9 days that remain, you serve 20% in jail and the rest on home detention. So that means that you serve 2 days in jail, 7 days on home detention. And home detention is pretty much what it sounds like. You can still go to work, but rather than going to jail at night, you're going back to home. So it's made things a little bit more palatable. Not saying that any time in jail is easy to do or fun to do or anybody wants to do, but 2 days in jail is a lot better than 30. And then if you're above a .20, you're talking about 45 days in jail. Now, of those 45 days, 31 days can get suspended. So that means you're left with 14. You pair that with the 20%, and that means you're doing 3 days in jail, 11 days on home detention. And again, not saying that jail's easy, not saying that jail's fun, but 3 days of jail is a lot better than 45 days of jail. So are the penalties too harsh in Arizona? It's when you look at it compared to some other states have mandatory minimums that are worse than ours. Some other states have mandatory minimums that are better than ours. Some states have diversion programs for first-time offenders. So really what I think it is and I really am glad that we had some of the law changes that we did, because, again, it was pretty harsh for people to have to serve 45 days of jail. You lose your job, you lose your house, you lose those sort of things. Again, 3 days of jail is not fun to do. I wouldn't want to do it, but it's a little more palatable than having to do 45 days of jail. It's less likely to cause you to lose a job, which would then cause you to lose your house, your apartment, wherever you're living. So it's a little bit easier than that. And those are some law changes that have happened, I don't know, in the last 5 years or so. So that makes things a little bit better. So when you ask, are the penalties too harsh? I look at it and say, look, they are harsh, because, and again, anytime it's a mandatory something, I always think that that's harsh because it doesn't allow for a deviation for certain exceptions, which I think is important. And it doesn't allow the judge to make certain exceptions for anything. And it doesn't allow the state to make certain exceptions for anything. So can they be harsh? Yes. Now, where they really get harsh are a second and third subsequent DUI. If you get those within 84 months, you're talking about a substantially harsher penalty, meaning you go from 1 day in jail to 90 days in jail, or you go from 30 days in jail to 120 days in jail, or you go from 45 days in jail to 180 days in jail. Hey, that is substantially harsher. So that's why, and again, I say I wish we had diversion for a first time offender because most people aren't in that boat to where they come back and see us for a second time or a third time or a fourth time. But if you get that third time, then what's going to happen is now you're talking about a felony. Now you're talking about spending 4 months in prison before you get put on probation. And that's no work release, no 20%, nothing like that. You're going to the Department of Corrections for 4 months, and then you're going to get released to probation. So that's where penalties really, really start to get harsh. So on a first time offense in Arizona, I wish there was some more discretion, but given some of the other states that I've looked at as well, it's not as harsh as it could be. But again, I wish there was diversion on this type of program. And then if not, you've got kind of the mandatory minimums that you have depending upon the level of DUI that you have. But if you've been arrested or you've been charged with a DUI, give our office a call. We can go through the options with you and get you the best defense possible.
Thanks for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more valuable insights. We'll see you in the next video.